All right, it's time for another segment with our friends at Sport Manitoba. It takes a community to play, supported by the good folks at Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. And this is an absolute pleasure to welcome in a Manitoba running legend, a member of the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, and one of a very short list of Manitobans to win the Manitoba Marathon. Manitoba Sports Hall of Famer Chris Glowach joins us now. Chris, it is so good to have you on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm great, and talking from Mexico, it's even better. So
Yeah, no doubt. We've caught you at a good time, enjoying. I will tell you, it's pretty nice
I know
here. All things considered, I'm sure the winter runners are enjoying the weather so far this year.
we've had an awesome winter in Winnipeg, and my I've always joked my wife is still competitive, not competitive, but she still runs. So I always joke that at one time I was one of the fastest runners in the country, and now I'm not even the fastest in the family. Run.
You've got such an incredible story. But I want to focus in on your start because I was watching the video of your Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame induction, and some of your closest friends pointed out how growing up you were far from quote unquote an athlete. Tell us about growing up and how you got into running in the first place.
Oh, my friend that threw me under the bus.
Yeah, that's him.
Um, um, no, it's true. I didn't do anything, and I was too short and to play volleyball and basketball. And back then, it was a big time thing in high school athletics. So I didn't really run a step in my life until I met my wife in high school, or future wife in high school. We've been together almost 50 years now, and her family was runners. So I thought, well, I better try this. So I tried it, and her dad and I decided we are going to run the first Manitoba Marathon. But we weren't going to run the whole thing because I had never run more than 6 miles before in my life, and either had he. So his goal was to go 6 or 8 miles, and they had exit with dignity at that time. So you could exit any time on the course, get a certificate, and be done with it. Well, 20 or 21-year-old Chris decided he was going to feeling pretty good. So I carried on, carried on, carried on. And at halfway, I decided, well, I might as well finish this thing. And I did finish it. And it took a few days to really say I enjoyed it because I was in so much pain. And I remember the next day I had to drive my vehicle to Brandon. I had a Toyota Corolla it would have been a 1980, whatever year it was. I had to drive my car to Brandon, and I had to crawl out of my parents' house to get into the car, and then use my knee to push the pedal down, pedal down to even change gears. So, but with after a few days, I was planning my next marathon.
What was it like finishing? I mean, from a plan of just going out and trying to hang with your future father-in-law to actually crossing the. At what point did you catch the bug? I mean, was it at the end realizing that you did it and could do it? Or was it later after the fact going, hey, I've already done one. Maybe I can get into this a little more seriously?
Well, it was funny because I actually surprisingly did it in 3 hours and 19 minutes, which for never running, or I was. I
That's a
don't.
natural.
It is a natural, and I don't come from a family of athletes. Like I said, I mentioned my dad when we were talking earlier about curling, but I was never really brought up a really athletic family, and it took. Well, I ran the second one, so and then improved a little bit, but never really got serious about running. I don't know if I ever got serious about it. I just fell in love with it, and the biggest thing with running was the one thing I heard was there was a thing that said, I read an article that said, running has no skills. You put one foot in front of the other and repeat. And I thought, well, that's pretty good for a non-athletic person. So I just thought, well, I just did it more and more and more, and became decent at it.
Well, decent. You're too modest. I mean, for someone that didn't take it and wasn't really serious in it, it has become a huge part of your life. And I mean, you went back to back in '97 and '98 as a homegrown Manitoba Marathon champion. I mean, I'm sure over the course of your incredible career with over 80 marathons, that those must stand out. Tell us about preparing and then being a contender and actually winning it.
You know what's funny is, I think how can I put it? Um, like I say, the family connection, and then I don't know where this came from because I didn't really train. I had I've never had a coach really. Never was coached properly. Never did proper nutrition. Nothing like that. And then, I will say when you ask the question about what my favorite marathon was, it was still, and what I taught people in my clinics was crossing the finish line for the first time is still the most memorable one. Sure, absolutely winning at 97 was a thrill because to be the first Manitoba born, to have John Robertson, Hall of Fame broadcaster at the finish line, putting a medal around my neck and he said, I've never heard Pan Am Stadium that loud ever, even at the Pan Am games when they were here in 67. So I guess because I was well known through owning the running room with my wife Lynn. So when they announced that I was coming in, the first Manitoba born, and who I was, just I'll never forget that.
Our pal Jeff Curbison did a great write up on you, and folks, you can read, about Chris's career at the Hall of Fame inductee spotlight at the Sport Manitoba website. And this is from the 2023 class for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. But Chris, what I didn't know, I mean, I've known your name for a long time. I knew you were synonymous with the sport in Manitoba and have been involved in so many different things. I wasn't aware of how you lost the majority of your sight and then still completed the marathon in a pretty impressive time in 2004. I mean, fill us in on the challenges that you went through during that period of time and how you were able to stay in the game.
Well, what they did was the Manitoba Marathon approached me and decided they were going to make me the poster child for the 1984, or yeah, I guess 19. Get the years mixed up, but
2004, I think, was the one.
You're right. So they approached me after I lost my vision in 2003, and they asked if I'd be the poster child. And then they created a team around me that people had to raise money to be on Chris's team, and which was a huge honor for me. And so we had people that ran. We trained together. We did events together, and people had raised, I think, $1,000 to be on Chris's team. So we raised some money for the Association for Community Living at the time. And then I thought, well, I'm still in okay shape. So I thought, and the media coverage of me running it was crazy. I mean, they had national news. I know even they did a 10-minute documentary on me with CBC on the national with Peter Mansbridge. And then the media coverage, I thought every step of the way on the marathon route, I thought all these vehicles around me covering me. It was like, if it had been a white Bronco, it would have felt like the Bronco OJ. And so it was pretty intense, and I stopped and visited. I could have broke 3 hours that day. I was in pretty good shape still. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy it. I stopped and walked with people that were still in just doing the half marathon. And I stopped and visited with them and people that had inspired me or cheered me on over the years. And I've run that course since 1979, the same Manitoba Marathon course. They've changed it recently to go the opposite way, but for all those years to run that course and have the cheering. Kevin Donnelly, you probably know Kevin.
Of course.
In his he did a part of the tribute to me in the Hall of Fame evening, and he said, was kind of cool because I didn't even know he was doing this whole thing. It was all a surprise to all of us that were doing the they did their talks, and Kevin said if there was a mayoralty race on that weekend, I would have been the mayor of the city. So
Well, I mean, listen, it's an inspiring story from the beginning with, not being a person that was involved in tons of sports, sort of just finding her way into a challenge and then, having this great career. But, maybe if you can speak to, the work you've done, probably inspiring people with disabilities, particularly vision wise, when it comes to participating in sport, period, but especially running. And then your work with Joints in Motion, which, was a big part of the induction tribute to you with what you've done sort of away from the track.
it's interesting because I worked for the Arthritis Society for a number of years, and that was after I left the running room. They approached me to join the society, so it was perfect because I've had to fundraise, so I had to get people to sign up and raise money for the Arthritis Society. Some of them had to raise up to $5,000-$10,000, and then I got to train them because of my background as a runner, train them and bring them on events all over the world. So I've taken groups to Ireland, to Portugal, to the Great Wall of China. And so it was great. I still got to go. And then I stayed on the course. Jamaica was an example where I stayed on the course for 8 hours going back and forth for people because they raised the money. A lot of them had no background in running or walking even that distance. And I'd stay on the course until our last participant came in. And some of them were 8 hours in Jamaica. I'll never forget it. And having to and then one of my participants decided they were going to stop at about 20 miles. So I was the only person left on the course. And so the last mile I just ran in Jamaica, Bob's Mile. So it was Bob Marley's mile. And they were handing out Red Stripe beer at the time. So I thought, well, might as well enjoy this. So it's great. Hopefully I inspired people to achieve their goal and to raise money for different organizations.
Chris, for people that maybe are younger right now, that are at a different stage in their life, that maybe haven't been involved in, many sports or physical activity, what would you say to people to give running a try? And maybe if you can speak to what the running community has sort of given back to you over your Hall of Fame career in life.
Oh, if it wasn't for the running community, I wouldn't have, they've done more for me than I've done for them, I think. And so what I tell young people is it's not the easiest activity to get involved because it's a very, I know my wife runs with a group of women every morning. They're up at 5 a.m. running, 3 or 4 times a week. She still does that. Find a group, take a clinic, I think would be the best thing, but find something, because I know for a guy like me, I used to love running just by myself. I throw on the headset and go running, carry my Walkman and go running. And for me, it was more like the loneliness of the long distance runner. There's a book out there called that. But I think for a lot of people, it's just get involved. We used to in the city have clinics that had like 150 or more people in a clinic, and just get involved that way. Go to a running store. Like it doesn't have to be just a running room. There's Big Sky Runners now. There's City Park Runners. Just go there and just talk to them because they're all there to help you achieve a goal.
Chris Glowach's with us, Manitoba Sports Hall of Famer. Part of working with Sport Manitoba on these segments with folks that have had, usually more often than not, involvement in sport at some level, often very high levels. But once they're finished their elite performance career, giving back to the sport, being involved. And I mean, you certainly have done that with the running room, with Joints in Motion, with so many different levels. How beneficial has it been to you, to, long after your days of winning the Manitoba Marathon, to still be a part of the running community and give back? That's one thing I always like kind of circling back to with our guests on this segment, because we hear a very similar theme, that it's something that, continues to enrich everyone for still being involved.
See, the one thing, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't come from an athletic background anyway. Like, had no idea I was going to win marathons. So it came full circle for me in a certain way. Like when I was competitive, but then when I wasn't competitive, even when I lost my vision, I could go back to it because I didn't take it up to be this competitive athlete. So I think that's when I taught clinics. I could relate to the average person joining a clinic that just their goal was to run maybe just a 5K, or a 10K or a half marathon or eventually a full marathon. So I feel that I could give back that because I didn't come into the sport, as that competitive athlete. And when I still ran until injury in my vision, I can really relate to those people. And I think that's why people still talk to me, and I like to do motivational talks. And if anybody's interested in having me out to talk to them, I'm thrilled to do that.
Well, it has been so much fun having you on this. I have to ask you, what was it like? How did you find out that you were going into the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, and what was that call like?
It was awesome. I mean, I'm in there is a Hall of Fame, the Manitoba Runners Hall of Fame, and I'm in that. I think I was in the first class of that one. But to go into one like this, for your province with your peers in other sports and have a class, every class is so special. But to go in with people I knew, from Alex Gardner from the University of Manitoba, and then coach, he was the head coach of when Donovan and Bernie and then won in Atlanta when he won the gold medal in Atlanta, and then Don Whitman's call was one of the best calls I've ever heard in sports. When he said, when they won the gold medal in the relay, and his call was, if you're Canadian, gotta love Saturday nights in Georgia. And Don Whitman's my hero as far as a sports commentator. And so just to go in with like people like Alex and the Bronstein and Do-Goods and the swimmer, and then the late Brent Bottomley, who his wife took clinics from me. So there's a real connection to I knew pretty much all of the groups that went in through my circle. So it was incredible. I'll never have my family there was amazing. And there were like people there. So
I mean, it's so well deserved. I mean, historic running career with the multiple Manitoba Marathon championships, and I think what stands out and brings us back to a common theme of the "It Takes a Community to Play" segments with Sport Manitoba is that while you certainly were deserving to be inducted as an athlete, there's also a lot of evidence that you would have been in as a builder as well, because of everything you've done within the running community. Chris, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the program. Thanks for taking a little bit of time down south of the border to join us. Enjoy the rest of your time in Mexico, and we'll look forward to seeing you at some point back here in the Peg.
it's been an honor. Thank you so much.